Welcome to PowerTalk, the show where we dive deep into meaningful conversations with inspiring changemakers. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Laurabel Mba, a trailblazing advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. Laurabel has an incredible story, starting from her roots in Nigeria and raising to become one of Canada's most recognized leaders in DEIB-AR work. Laurabel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Glad to have you here. Let's start from the beginning. You grew up in Nigeria before making the journey to Canada.
Yeah.
How has your background shaped who you are today and the work you do?
Honestly, I think it's a lot of why I am who I am. So, my family immigrated to Canada in 2000. I was 8. One thing that was really part of my youth, even though I was raised in Canada but started in Nigeria, is like my parents had this wonderful saying: it's Nigeria inside our house, it's Canada outside the doors. So, the things don't always go both ways. So, I spent a lot of like my childhood and my youth having a very strong Nigerian culture and upbringing in my home and being connected to the Nigerian community. We were in Ontario at the time, so in Ontario in the Greater Toronto region, and then balancing a Canadian youth upbringing outside my house. So there's a lot of duality that I'm used to walking, which I think has been very important in shaping how I navigate spaces.
Your journey from Nigeria to becoming one of Canada's top 100 most powerful women is nothing short of inspiring. Did you always know you wanted to advocate for diversity and inclusion?
No, actually, I didn't. It was growing up, I first wanted to be a ballerina and then I wanted to be a surgeon. But then I took a course in high school. It was like a marketing course. And I was like, oh, maybe I want to do marketing and advertising. So through the jigs and reels of it, ended up at Memorial University to do a bachelor's of business and was doing business. And DIB, so diversity, equity, and inclusion and anti-racism, were parts of my life, but more on advocating for myself in spaces. It wasn't till 2019 for me when I had my son that it became paramount for the work that I do, just because he's biracial. I was raising him in a predominantly white space, and he was going to call Newfoundland and Labrador his home. So it was important to me that the place he called home saw him as one of theirs.
Laurabel Mba Consulting, can you tell us about the mission of your consultancy and the impact you aim to create?
Yeah, so my consultancy started first, it was called Race to Dinner Newfoundland and Labrador because that was the initial concept of what I was doing. And then it officially launched as Laurabel Mba Consulting in 2024. And it became encompassing of not just the race to dinner / race table talk sessions I were doing, but a lot of the advocacy on diversity, equity, and inclusion from an anti-racist point of view, and helping explain to people what that actually means, because we're used to seeing diversity, equity, and inclusion on everything. We're an equal opportunity employer, but organizations and people on a person to person level really struggled with understanding, what does this actually mean? What does it mean to have diverse spaces? What does it mean to be inclusive and equitable? So with my consultancy, it's about taking those really big theological concepts and bringing them into actionable, easily implementable things that people can do, not just in their workplaces, but in their day to day lives, because DEI and those initiatives don't just stop at 5 o'clock when you leave the office. They really do become part of community and society and individuals.
In addition to your consulting, you're also the host of Out of the Fog, a talk show that highlights changemakers in Newfoundland and Labrador. How has this platform helped you amplify the voices of unrepresented communities?
I I'm very lucky to be one of the hosts of Out of the Fog, and I think because of my own intersecting identities, I'm connected to a lot of maybe underrepresented folks who don't usually get to be in front of the camera and have a provincial reach in terms of their story, their missions, their experiences. So when given the opportunity, I thought, I want these people to tell their story. I want people to see people who look like me, sound like me, or are just very different than what you think when you say Newfoundland and Labrador, but who so much love this province, call it theirs, and so that the rest of the province can see who they are, because they are more than just passersby on the road. They are very integral to all of the great things that our province is known for, and we don't always get to see the people behind it.
It's kind of like what I'm trying to do with this channel. Uh,
Exactly, and I love it.
Only on a bigger scale. I'm trying to get, because this is worldwide, so I'm
Yeah,
trying to get let people see that Newfoundlanders are not just we're not just people on an island, and you know
exactly.
we're not what people perceive us to be, basically,
No, there's so
or
much
have
more to this province.
exactly. We're not what people have perceived us to be in the past. You know, we're more than that. So
Absolutely.
your accolades, such as being named one of WXN Canada's top 100 most powerful women and winning the 2024 Women in Communication and Technology Entrepreneur of the Year award, are a testament to the impact of your work. What keeps you motivated to continue pushing for systemic change?
A lot of it is my son. For quite honestly, he is the fire and the motivation for what I do in the world and all of that. But I have been very lucky to, in this work, get to work with youth as well. And so when people ask me this question specifically, there's one story that sticks out for me. Um, a few last year in 2024, I had the opportunity to go back and present at a school that I had done work with before, at Lake Crest Independent School located here in St. John's. And we were talking about Black History. It was a Black History Month presentation about the complexities of Black identity and all of that. And there was a young girl who was student council president at the time. And so I had done the presentation. I was talking about like why I love being a Black woman sometimes in a world that tells you it's not something you're supposed to love and truly enjoy. And we had talked about food and how like Blackness is not a monolith. What's important to me as a Nigerian Canadian is also very different than what's important to a Jamaican or a Haitian and all of that. And that one of the things and the easiest way to connect with people is food. And I had talked about how growing up, even though I grew up in diverse spaces, it was still like my culture wasn't the ideal Blackness to people were striving for. And so that bringing traditional foods to school for lunch was something that I felt really awkward and uncomfortable about. But now that I've grown up, it's one of the things I very much love. And I love getting to see other cultures' foods and all of that. And I think as people, food is the easiest way to get to know someone else. So I had finished the presentation. And so she came up to say thank you and do all the normal like student council things. And there was one key moment where she looked at me and she said, "Thank you for making it okay for me to bring my foods to school and for me not to feel ashamed about it." And that was the moment for me where younger me was so awkward about having to balance her Nigerian aspect in Canadian spaces. And if there's nothing else I do in this work, it is the fact that I allow people to bring their whole selves back into society. So you don't have to pick and choose which of you is good enough to show, but you can show up as whole or as broken as you are and know that you're still valid in the space. So that's why I do the things I do.
Um, One of your passions is dismantling systemic racism and educating others on the importance of actionable solutions. For those who want to make a difference, what advice would you give to individuals and organizations?
I think it's first to know what you can do and what is in your capacity to do. A lot of people think I have to change the world in a very big way, and that's a very daunting thing. But think 6 feet from you. What can you change? What can you do within 6 feet of your being and the people you interact with? If it's, let's say you live in an isolated space and you don't get to interact with people very often, what kind of things are you taking in? What books are you reading? What shows are you watching? What podcasts, music? If you open the world in a way that's accessible to you and you're open to it, the next time you interact with people, you share a little bit of what you learned. You share a little bit of what experiences you have recently been part of, and from there, you help change someone else's mind about an idea or a person or a concept in a way they might not have been ready for before. And understand it's not going to be instantaneous. A lot of the time, as individuals, especially in this like right in here, right now society, if it doesn't happen right away, we think it's a failure. You just need to poke the Jiminy Cricket in the back of someone's brain and know that when you walk away at some point, they're going to be triggered in some way, not triggered in a bad way, but something's going to check for them. And Jiminy's going to pipe up and say, hey, maybe something else. And that's all you need to do. And then you leave it with them and know that it's going to be constant. You just keep doing it little by little. And sometime the next thing you know, you're having a conversation with that same individual, maybe months or years down the road. And it's a very different conversation. They're a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more aware. The blinders have maybe come off for them on what's going on in society. And then you've changed one person who changes another person, and it just becomes the ripple.
Hmm. That's exactly how I feel. I have a disability, so it's kind of the same thing. I trying to change people's minds about people with disabilities. You
Absolutely.
know, I mean, I've had people look at me and say, "Oh, you work?" I'm like, "Yeah, I work." Right? And it's like,
Exactly.
but they have this perception of people with disabilities, not being able to work and not leaving their homes. But it's the old way. That was
Exactly.
years. That was
It's
years
when
ago.
yeah, when we didn't know better and we didn't see the capacity of people doing things in a way that worked for them, we lived in a very limited space. When you give
Exactly.
people the room to do what they want to with, and you give them the tools that they need to be where they want to be, it's amazing what people can accomplish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your work is making such a profound impact. For anyone who wants to connect with you or learn more about your initiatives, where can they find you?
Socials. I exist very broadly on the socials. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. I'm not on X anymore for ethical reasons for myself, but I am on every other social. I have a website. So I'm really easy for people to get in contact, and I love chatting with, getting to know people. So if you have questions, I'm definitely not a scary person to reach out to ask me anything. And I think if I don't have the answer for your question, I will do my utmost to find you resources that help you get to an answer. So, yeah, connect with me wherever you find me.
And I have a question now that I hadn't planned on asking, but I'm just going to
Okay.
ask it out right off the cuff. What do you think of the situation and the things that are happening in the United States right now?
I'm heartbroken. Honestly, I am heartbroken. I'm scared, if we're going to be very honest. I'm scared as a woman. I'm scared as a Black individual. I'm scared as a queer person. It's hard to see the ugliness of the world revealed in such a big way, and people strip the humanity from each other. And so when I watch this happen, like, even if we take out all the policy out of it, I wonder, do you forget that these people are people? Do you forget that they just want access to the same things you have that are basic human rights? The idea that you can love who you love and still be able to marry, and you can be who you are without being needing to be ashamed of that, that no one should be limited from what they can achieve because you think that they're less than. So I'm a little afraid to see what the US is going to do with it. I'm also afraid about those sentiments coming up north into our land, but we're seeing it. We're seeing increased hateful rhetoric in our own day to day lives. But there is a little sense of optimism because if history has taught us anything, it is when you push people far enough, community rises in a way that you have never seen before. So I would like to say to all those who are from marginalized community, in a sense that people tell us that we are less than, we are a global minority in a lot of ways. There are more of us, and our people, whether it's racialized people with disabilities, people who are part of the 12 LGBT community, our communities have survived. In the times they have told us we are incapable of survival, we are seeds that they planted and covered with dirt. We do grow, we do rise, we will. So buckle down. It might be a rough ride, but no one has been more resilient than us before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Laura Bell, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Your journey and your work are both inspiring and transformative. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thomas, thank you for choosing me to be on your podcast. Honestly, I've seen the lineup of people you've gotten to talk to before, and they're all really amazing. So I'm honored that you reached out. I'm honored to be part of your story and the stories of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians that you get to tell. And I can't wait to see the next episode. And we'll switch seats and you will come chat with me on Out of the Fog soon.
Sure, if you want me to.
Absolutely. So, okay, we'll make a plan. So we'll put you in
You
the hot seat next time.
you reach out to me and I'll gladly come
Awesome.
and sit with you.
Oh, I'm so excited. But thank you so much.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. If Laurabel's story has inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to PowerTalk for more impactful conversations. Until next time, take care, keep working towards positive change.